This is Kelly. I thought I'd show you where I spent some of my earlier years. So this right here was my playground growing up. It was always amazing to have my own swing set and my own teeter-totter. And back here by my brother's truck, right where that's parked, was a one-of-a-kind tree house that my dad built. And this used to be a TV antenna. Now, in later years, we used it for a certain kind of birdhouse. Drawing a blank on what it's called. But right here, when my parents first got married and built this place, or bought the property, this was my mom's clothesline, and I spent a lot of time putting clothes up here. But we had a mobile home right here. This was where the mobile home sat, and this is a pudding stone / special kind of conglomerate rock of my great-grandmother's. So my father started building this house by hand himself with a couple friends who are still in the neighborhood, and when he finished, we moved in here. So I actually don't have any memories of living in the mobile home, but there are photographs of me being quite small. Even though I don't really remember the mobile home living in it at that time, I do remember something about that era. One of my very first memory was actually right out here, before any of these trees or bushes were here. This was all just an open grassy area. And my father worked 7 days a week, and so he wasn't home a lot. Oh, look at all the walnuts on the walnut tree. So this was all open, and because he wasn't home very much, because he worked usually until 6 or 7 at night, 6 days a week, and then he'd work half a day on Sunday, the lawn wasn't always mowed, and it was full of dandelions in between the mows. And I remember him telling me that the dandelions were edible. So it's typical Kelly style. I didn't just go pick a couple dandelions. I grabbed the biggest Easter basket I could find. And it was my first memory. I must have been only about 3 or 4, because there was pictures of me dragging around this basket full of dandelions. My dog's running right now after something. And right out here, oh, by the way, let me finish the dandelion story. So I had to have help lifting it onto the table, and I thought I was going to feed our family. So it was basically my first wild edible plant that I gathered that I thought was going to feed everyone. And my dad kind of burst my bubble because he said he didn't even like dandelions. And this was, at one time, a big sand pile. So I had my own sand pile, and one of my best memories here was actually digging down and finding Tonka trucks that my brothers, who are 10 and 11 years older than myself, had buried 10 and 11 years before that or more. And out here, this used to be our chicken coop. So before it was moved up there, this was the location of our chicken coop. And we also had ducks and geese at different times. And then my dad's property at this tract of land is over 80 acres. So I knew every deer trail on the place and ran all the way back in there. He's logged it now, so it's second growth, which is great for wildlife habitat. And then this is a dog that I found abandoned as a puppy. His name's Charlie. He's wagging his tail. So that's my dad's dog, Charlie, which he is a blonde beagle. And my dad had blonde beagles when he was a kid. So that's kind of why I thought he might like Charlie. So yeah, I have a lot of childhood memories. Excuse me. So this is where the fort sat. That's why there's no grass growing here, because he just moved it a couple years ago. It's actually still intact. He just moved it out of here, and it had doors and a kitchen and cabinets, and we used to stay there overnight. It was quite fun as a kid to have your friends come over. And here's where the chickens and ducks are now, and I think I've done another video with this already. He's really got a cool setup. So he has his sub pump that drains the water out of his basement that kicks on every few hours, and it runs there. Usually there's a ramp going up. I'm not sure why they stopped it. Oh, I know why, because there's little chicks. So the little chicks aren't smart enough to get out if chickens sometimes imprint and think they're ducks and they would drown. But when there's adults there, the ramp goes up and the ducks can go in that big area and swim around, and right now they just have a smaller one. And so they will actually drown being little chicks because the chickens think they're ducks and they don't know how to swim, and so they don't do as well. And so this was the site of my trampoline. When I was 4 years old, I started working. I actually picked night crawlers for my uncle who owned a bait shop and a sport shop. And by the time I was 5, I had saved up enough money that I had one of the very first ever in-ground trampolines that I'd never heard of anyone else ever having one. I remember seeing it on a PBS special, and I decided I wanted one. So it provided decades of fun for all my family and friends, and only one injury I can remember that resulted in, I think, one trip to ER for a cousin, getting a couple stitches. So anyways, those are some childhood memories that I had here, and most of them were in the woods, waking up with turkeys and deer all around me.